Hey, it's James, Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. Want to talk about, the danger of playing it safe and not taking any action. Um, I was talking to, I kind of bring this topic up in the midst of a lot of my videos. A lot of the stuff I talk about is kind of the same running theme, with different details, and so it might get people to, if I talk about something in one way, people might think, oh, that doesn't apply to me. I'm not going through exactly that thing. But the same principle of getting on the offensive, taking action, might apply in a different circumstance or whatever. So I just bring these things up when I think of a way that I haven't brought it up before. It may sound like I'm beating a dead horse on something to some people who've watched all my videos. It may sound like something new to somebody else. So I was talking to somebody today who had an incident a few months ago, and they were worried about going to court because they had they have a 50-50 plan. And, that is kind of a catch-22. You go to court, to say the other side's abusive or whatever, I should have custody. And then you roll the dice on the court doing something different and taking your time away. But here's the thing. When you're trying to pick your poison. And this is why it's best. The ideal situation is for somebody when they get stuck, especially for a father, if they get stuck in dealing with a custody battle, I always see guys do way better if they get on the offensive immediately and go all out, just with shock and awe. That's the way you come after a bully. That's the way you go into a fight. That's the way you go into a war, or you end up with a quagmire and stuff gets dragged out forever and ever. And, but the thing is when you hold off or put off on stuff, even if you're like playing it safe, I don't want to risk losing what I got, then the kid suffers more under a narcissist's control or whatever you're fearing and stuff. It almost always comes back to bite you later. Because let's say you're dealing with the mom moves in a boyfriend as a live-in boyfriend, and that guy's got assault in his history and stuff like that, and you know about that. You don't bring it up. Maybe he roughs up your kid or something like that. You don't bring it up. You hope that it'll stop through therapy. She says she'll keep the kid away from that person, or maybe she doesn't. Then a few months later, the narcissist is inevitably going to drag you back into court. So let's say she drags you into court a few months later, like, okay, now I better bring it up. I'm already in court. I risk losing something, so let me bring it up now. So what do you think that looks like to the court? Something happened a few months ago. She moved a dangerous person in, or there was an incident where she or the boyfriend or somebody else roughed up your kid, and you didn't bring it up to the court, and you're only bringing it up now after she comes to court lying about you being abusive. Well, how do you think that's gonna look? In my opinion, it looks like you didn't care about that incident, and you only care now that she's bringing you to court. So then it looks like both of you are abusing the system against each other, and you throw allegations out whenever it's convenient or you have to go to court or whatever. But she got on the offensive and she got the first blow in. So she might look like she's the one being genuine. So if you're dealing with a crazy abuser of the court system a lot, once they start, this is what's. Now, the situation I told you about is a little bit tricky because the dad already had 50-50, gained a lot of ground. The courts were warning her. To me, I kind of told him, look, if the courts are warning and it's escalating and it's getting worse, you go in there and say, look, it's gotten worse and escalated. You've warned her over and over and it continues. And I got pictures of this and evidence of that or whatever. The problem in this case was that the guy got a new judge, and the new judge is blowing off, say, don't listen to the past. Well, you got to force the judge to listen. You got to say, I have a right to present evidence in my case that's relevant. You can't just blow it off. And I told that I'd use an example. And a lot of times when a judge talks stupid, if you apply their logic to you, then it kind of wakes them up out of their stupor. So let's say, okay, the mother abused the kid a couple years ago, and then now it's gotten worse. And you're trying to bring that up, and then don't bring up the past. Say, okay, so if I threatened the mother, then I stalked her, then I caught up with her and pushed her, and then I choked her, and then I stabbed her, you're going to ignore all of that lead up and then only talk about let's say I punched her. Stabbing sounds way worse. So, and I punch her and there's a debate over who started the fight. You're not going to consider all the lead up escalating to that. See, when it's a man, and they like to crucify a dude in court, when it's a man and they'll go after him, if you apply their logic that they wouldn't apply to you, use yourself as an example and turn it around and show them how stupid they look. That's what I would do. But if you wait and wait, like in my case, as soon as the mother served a restraining order on me, the war was on and it was over. There's no negotiating. She's already lying about me. She's trying to have me restricted from access to my daughter, and I live 3 blocks away from the mother, and I got a job at night just so I could be the child's daycare. That was our agreement. She totally reneged on me. Now, a lot of you dads out there will say, okay, let me give her a chance, and let me give her a chance, and let me give her a chance. Then you walk in all nice and soft, or say, look, I've been trying to work it out with the mother and all this other stuff. I just want things to work out for all of us. She's trying to get a restraining order against me. How stupid would that look for me to go in and say, I'm trying to work stuff out with her? I'm saying I want to contact her. I want to pursue her. I want to work stuff out. And she's trying to cut me off. Playing Mr. Nice Guy and giving her chance after chance after chance. I look like a stalker, and that's all the more reason for them to grant a restraining order. She declared, in my case, the first thing that ever happened in my case, the mother got an anti-harassment order. We were talking over the phone, and I said, you got to let me see my kid. Like, she was letting me see her 3 days a week, and this was before I knew or thought of or understood about just keeping your kid and all. Didn't even think about that. Was just trying to see her. She started withholding her. I'm like, you keep withholding my kid from me, this thing's going to get ugly. And she's like, oh, is that a threat? Are you threatening me? And I'm like, no, I'm just saying this situation will get uglier. When I meant it'll go to court, but I'm not going to tip her off to my strategy like a lot of you guys do. And then you get blindsided because you're like, well, I'll take you to court and I'll go for full custody. And you talk smack. Instead, you should just go to court and serve her the paperwork. Then she goes down to the emergency courtroom and beats you to it because you're like, hey, here's my strategy. Like, what you think the U.S. called up Saddam Hussein and said, hey, here's how we're going to invade Iraq. We're going to come through the back door over here. Think about how stupid that would be. No matter what side you are on the war or war spirit or whatever, that's just an example, okay? So I know there's issues with the war and problems with that and everything like that. So I'm just making an example, a tangible example. But my baby's mom, as far as I was concerned, the war was on. You guys act like you have the obligation to be the peacekeeper and give them chance after chance after chance to get their mental disorder in check and their narcissism in check, and it's not going to change unless they have a come to Jesus moment, unless they get some therapy, unless they have a change of heart or something like that. It's not changing. And you want to work it out and be patient and be cool and be nice and all that other stuff. And so you don't do the one thing that works. Getting on the offensive from the beginning. I was on the offensive from the beginning. And because I went into court, and it took me a minute to realize this because I'm all new to this. I have no help for the most part, except one guy who had been out of court for 20 years and could barely help me, but gave me enough information to be able to get some of the basics down. But as soon as she came to court, and then after our first hearing, it got continued. They said, go to family court, get a parenting plan, come back to restraining order court, and then we'll see we'll go from there. We come back for a second hearing, and then they're like, did you get a parenting plan? I said, no, but I got a hearing in a couple more weeks. So the judge said, okay, I'm going to only grant this just in case, the restraining order for 2 weeks, and then it'll fall off, and then you're in family court. And then I never had a restraining order ever again, not even a temporary one. The mother tried 6 other times, but so it took about, the first hearing lasted about 45 minutes at least. Second hearing, she brought witnesses, I brought a witness, lasted about an hour, I think. Maybe 45 minutes again. Seemed like forever. But then I realized these people are talking like they don't want me to call the house and talk to her. I'm like, wait a minute. Like I had a eureka moment in court. It's like, wait a minute, Your Honor. I'm getting the idea that there's this perception here that she's trying to stop me from contacting her. I said, I don't want to contact her. I could care less whether I talk to the mother ever again. I just want to be involved with my daughter. The only reason I call their house is because I'm checking on my daughter. That's it. That's what parents do. I could care less about talking to her or anybody else in her house. I just want to see my daughter. I pulled the rug out from under her. That was her whole thing. Well, me and James had a dysfunctional relationship. I've been so at peace with my fat, ugly hater sisters who've never had a boyfriend now that I cut James off. It was all about me and her. And it took me a while to catch on because we were arguing about my daughter and why I'm doing this and that. I stole the rug and thunder out from under her. And then I think she was totally crushed and her feelings hurt even worse because she, like, sometimes women will play like they don't like you and they want you to chase them. I think she wanted me to chase her and show that. And then she also wanted to be in control. She figured she'd go to court, get a restraining order, she'd be in control. I'll see the kid when she feels like letting me see the kid. I just stole her whole thunder and totally offended her. Then the war was on, and we haven't talked since, except for a short period of time, about 2005. We talked on the phone for a little bit. And then the summer, there was some other period of time. It only lasted a few weeks because she got stupid. And I was like, okay, I can care less whether I talk to you ever again. But I tried to be civil and have the door open since I was in control. Just trying to be cool for the sake of everybody. So, that being said, from the beginning, I was on the offensive. That's the way to go. Now, if I would have said, well, I'm not going to say I don't want to talk to her ever again. I'm not going to say she's an abusive mother withholding the child from me. I'll save that for later. No, I came from the beginning. Bang, 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 bang. Then I went to family court. I lost. I appealed from a family law commissioner to a judge, which we can do in Washington. It's called a motion for revision. You get 2 shots at it. A low-level family law only commissioner, which is a mini judge who can't do trials. And then you can appeal to a judge. I got 0 visitation with the family law commissioner. I went to a judge and I got 5 days a week. Well, I went to a judge and then she got a continuance because she got an attorney. So from the beginning, I was bang, 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 fighting, calling her out, saying she lives in a house that's like a cult, her and her sisters. And she has a couple other roommates. They're living in a big house. They're a bunch of control freaks, psychos, and all that other stuff. And it's a toxic environment. From the beginning, you wait and you don't come out swinging and throw it all on the table. And when there's an incident that happens, you let it slide. Down the road, they're coming to court and coming after you. Then you bring it up. Oh, yeah, and this happened and she did that. Well, how come you didn't do anything about it? Don't you care about your kid? If there's violence or a child molester in the mother's home or she's on drugs or alcohol, how come you didn't do anything about it? How come you're still sending the kid back to her? You're acting like you don't care and it's not a problem. And then it bites somebody in the butt. But, the vast majority of these cases aren't even about what you win or don't win in court. It's about the war of attrition and get on the offensive and wearing the other side down when it comes time to settle. They're beat down and they're in a position like, gosh, what is it going to take to get you to stop and let up and call off the dogs? Well, give me 50-50. Or else I'm going to trial and going for full custody and I got nothing to lose. That's how I would talk at mediation. I'm going for full custody and full child support. You give me 50-50, I don't even care about child support. We could drop the child support or give, or, cut you a break on it. Or, or like I'm going to go for full custody and you have limited access. Well, I'll agree to full custody 60-40 and I won't even ask for child support. I could care less about child support. Or you negotiate 50-50. But at that point, they're at a breaking point where like, I'm sick and tired of fighting you because you've been on the offensive. So To me, it's just dangerous to hold off and wait and play it safe. There's too many. When you pick your poison, there's too many risks.